I had just 1 hour. It was all the time I needed to recreate my memories with a person that time and circumstance had yacked away from my life. I was waiting at the international airport in Manila because after 10 years, she was finally coming home. My aunt would be back in the Philippines for her layover. For 10 years, we exchanged pictures and video calls online, but I knew that these were nothing compared to an hour of actually getting together in the flesh. The Filipino diaspora is often talked about in numbers. They are the 12% of our nation spread across the continent, the $2 billion in remittances they send home every month. But this neglects a larger part of the story, the daily sacrifices conducted in faraway countries. Our OFWs, or Overseas Filipino Workers stories, aren't just stories of success. They are also stories of invention, of finding new ways to succeed where none exist. Our clock started ticking when the voice announced the arrival of her flight. We had our faces pressed on glass as we waited for them, the balikbayans or the returnees who had come home. As soon as I saw my aunt pass through the airport gates, I knew I am lucky to have a family that can make the journey back home. Not every Filipino working abroad can come home. Many get left behind. Many remain as TNDs, literally those who hide. They live as undocumented immigrants, playing an endless game of hide and seek with the authorities. They invent new identities, facing the anxiety that comes with hiding, fearful of being deported back home. In the United Kingdom, there are over 600,000 undocumented immigrants who long for the lives they've left behind. It must be hard to say goodbye but it must be even harder to say goodbye for an uncertain future. I had 30 minutes left with her. The sweeping vistas of the countryside we used to visit were now the gray horizon of concrete pavement as we saw airplanes fly in and out. At least the people there in the terminal have a flight display telling them how much time they have left. But does it help tell them how meaningful their time can be? I had 20 minutes left with her. My aunt misses home, but we both know that returning home would only mean returning to a dream that had come to naught. Filipinos and millions of other migrants all around the world are willing to live as second-class citizens if it means inventing a better future for someone else. But this isn't just a story of those who leave. It's also a story of those who get left behind. These are the spouses, the children, the nieces, who need to invent their own futures apart. In my case, I had to reinvent ours at the terminal until our ticking clock's time had finally run out. It is an ironic fact of the Filipino identity that to show someone you love them, you often have to leave. But that doesn't mean we can't invent new ways to connect, to be as much a family as ever. Those who leave give as much as they take. And so we families do what we do best. We rebuild our lives across the oceans, reinvent our ties with those we love, 1 hour at a time. Whether it's the hours we spend on Skype calls, or the hours we spend on Christmas evenings with all our relatives back home, or the hours we spend praying for those who are absent. Every family invents their own way of spanning that distance and strengthening their love. We can't change circumstance, but we can predict what the future of our families will look like by inventing it. We pick up the pieces they have left behind and invent a new kind of dream for ourselves and for them. For the last time, I saw my aunt pass through the airport gates, my face pressed on the glass as I waved goodbye. But this time, without a heavy heart. After all, our futures can still be written 1 hour at a time.
Oh, very good.
I need to fix my pacing. I was realizing.
How long?
Sorry, that's stop.